Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter. I am, of course, from Spartan Nation. Your very best coverage of the Michigan State Spartans is found at SpartanNation.com, where for over 25 years, we've provided you the very best coverage of your beloved Spartans. Remember, Michigan State Spartans on SI, nobody covers them better. Again, I'm Hondo Carpenter. I am your college football senior writer on SI, joined by Spartan Nation contributor emeritus. He is a great Spartan. He graduated from Michigan State, decorated media member, now a highly successful attorney in the Atlanta Buckhead area, who's joined us for nearly 20 years to talk Michigan State on a regular basis, the great Johnny Schott. John, I'm going to throw it right to you. It was a good win for Michigan State, 41-24 to improve to 3-0. Nobody who was reasonable thought this was a Big Ten contender or a playoff contender, but clearly a bowl team. And unlike last year, they're maturing. They're taking those steps. These are games they should win. They are winning. And even though Aiden Chiles isn't a finished product, I mean, the kid is 19 years old and he's still growing. He's got 2 more years of growth, plus nearly an entire season. There's a lot to be happy with in this win.
There is. When you go back a year ago, or you even go back a few weeks ago, this is the kind of progress you want to see from Michigan State overall. It does start with Chiles. We talked about the roller coaster ride last year. It's already smoothing itself out. I actually don't have any problem with the interception in the Youngstown State game. You'd much rather have it happen then, if you can, than against Southern Cal, which is a total different situation for him. So there are a lot of signs of progress. Obviously, the massive concern is the health of Nick Marsh. And I think that's the one thing that Chiles needs to understand going into what could be a transformational week for Michigan State football. This game is bigger than this team needs to worry about. It's a little bigger than it certainly looks like on paper. But here's what Chiles needs to understand, and it's different. He's not a college football quarterback anymore. He's a college football quarterback with NIL money and looking for a big pro future. There's not as much of a pro future if his leg or legs get blown up. He needs to now learn how to slide or get out of bounds. Stop taking hits. I imagine he's being coached as much. He's going to go up against some NFL level defensive coaching next week. He needs to understand it's going to be as tough as it's ever been for him, and he had better learn how to slide or get out of bounds, or this is going to be a season that is in serious jeopardy of ending short, which nobody wants to see because the guy is going in one direction right now, and that is straight up.
Remember, you can get the best coverage of the Michigan State Spartans when you go to SpartanNation.com. Jacob Consanika does a terrific job covering the Spartans. John, I want to turn to Chiles a little bit more. 22 of 29, 270 yards, one TD. Again, I didn't have a problem with the interception either. And yes, he's a young man that has to grow up and mature and has to understand everybody's good at this level now. You better to take 1 yard less and not take a hit, step out of bounds, slide, whatever. I agree. But overall, we're watching the maturation of a very good quarterback right in front of us.
We're watching the maturation of a guy that may have basically all five tools, if you want to talk about a five-tool quarterback.
Yeah.
We're seeing things that happen before the snap that have to happen. We're seeing development there. We're seeing some development in pace and touch and trajectory. We're actually seeing progress, which, look, for some of you folks that are younger, there was a time when Mark D'Antonio had this program cooking and his quarterbacks, other than one, weren't making the kind of progress that they should have been making. Now, that one is arguably the best in modern school history, Connor Cook. That worked out fantastic. But this is not a regular thing where we've seen this kind of progress in this kind of athlete. This is not one of the athletes that's come to Michigan State in my time, which is basically 98 to the present. This is not one of those guys that has a 4 or 5 star and doesn't develop, doesn't live up to it. And you can tell it's not going to happen. Somebody misevaluated him in high school. This looks like a guy that was underrated, perhaps, in high school. Now he is going to a massive stage at somewhat of a disadvantage. I'll talk about the disadvantage first, because a lot of folks don't remember the Arizona State game. Your body is not made to perform at peak performance after, say, 1 in the morning, period. I don't care if you're 16, 61, or somewhere in between. Michigan State is probably going to have a tough time in the second half. They're going to drop the ball. They're going to do some strange things because they are getting kind of hosed here, to be honest with you. And this is something that the conference can take up. They're playing too late, period. They're playing too late. The disadvantage of going and starting a game at 11 versus Southern Cal starting at noon, those are not equal. So Michigan State is going to be behind the 8 ball here when it comes to the second half. My concern is that Chiles is not too jacked up. He knows where he's going. There are 10 million people in Los Angeles County. There are way over 40 million people in California. He's from California. He needs to find a way, and he needs to be supported and coached not to make this any bigger than it is. If so, look for him to come out and force, and that's going to put Michigan State behind the 8 ball. This is not the greatest Southern Cal team, but look who's coaching their defense. Hondo knows Rob Ryan extraordinarily well. He's going to do some things that Chiles has not seen, and the Michigan State coaching staff, who is highly paid on the offensive side of the ball, they are going to find out how they measure up this week. It's incredibly exciting. Michigan State has a quarterback that has a wildly enormous upside. This is a guy on a different level than what we've seen. The progress is being made. Huge test next week and what could be an enormous week for Michigan State football. They've got a chance to say, hey, we went away for a little while, but we are back on the national stage if they do something magical at Southern Cal.
I agree with you. And I want to, say this. I do know Rob really well, consider him a friend, and they're going to mix up, going to be a lot of different blitzes. They're going to come at him from a lot of different angles. And I think you're absolutely right. You mentioned about Aiden Chiles was probably underrated. And that's where Spartan fans, it's why we at Spartan Nation were ahead of the curve before Mel Tucker was even fired. We were calling for him to be terminated, and we said, go get Jonathan Smith for that reason. At Oregon State, he consistently developed players that others didn't want. In fact, I was told at the time, before he was even the coach at Michigan State, before Mel Tucker had been fired, by a national coach, John, you know who I'm talking about, a Hall of Fame coach, that said he can't keep people because he doesn't have NIL, and guys come in and purchase his players. But look at Talise Fawaga. Look at all the players that he took and developed. If you're a Spartan, last year we were one of only one place that was telling Spartan Nation, be patient. There's a good future here. You can see it now, but guys like Chiles are exactly why, you want to root for a guy like Jonathan Smith, because he's going to go get the players that others overlook. He's got considerably better resources at Michigan State, and the man knows how to develop players. Say what you want. There's a lot of players on this Spartan team, which all of us have had a front row seat to watching getting better. Some from last year, some even already just this year.
Yeah, some of the guys in the transfer portal, and a little bit of a tough spot for Smith and company because there is no practice like actual game reps. So you've got guys that are new in the program, enough of them. You want to figure out what they can do. That's why they had to play as many plays as they did at Youngstown State, without any question. You got to find out what you get. And folks, I want you to look at the schedule if you haven't already. This is like the first exam of the term for Michigan State. If they can go do something really great at Southern Cal, they've got a bye week and things will change in a second around East Lansing. Michigan State will be back on the national map. That's where this thing is heading. That's how big this game is against Southern Cal. I am also extremely interested, as you are, to watch the development at the lines. We've seen what the offensive defensive line have done so far. Let me just put it this way. There's probably a handful of guys at Boston College that would have been recruited to Southern Cal on their best day, even though it's the other side of the country. So I'm expecting the actual physical talent to be much better here with Southern Cal. However, when you talked about Jonathan Smith, and folks, Hondo said, listen, you got to start watching Oregon State a bit, just in case. That's what he said. And of course, I was watching him sometimes late into the night, way late on that Pac-10, foggy, rainy, all that weird stuff. Like, I'm watching Oregon State here, but I'm seeing a competent team, and I'm understanding that these guys improve. Jim Michalczyk is so important to Michigan State's success this season and so important next week. He's got his hands full. Everybody in Michigan State on that side of the ball has got to find a way to protect Chiles and keep him rolling. On the other side, This is not Southern Cal with a name brand quarterback yet. They did get a significant delay with some magical heavy lightning at Purdue on Saturday. So their travel schedule got thrown off a bit, but that's not going to be a big deal. What is going to be a big deal is the Michigan State defensive line show up. Can they take a step up and play? I hope Michigan State is jacked for this. Not overjacked, but jacked up. They have a huge chance. I know it's late in the middle of the night on the East Coast. They got a massive chance to get back on the national stage. Let's see how they measure up in those trenches. And if they measure up, you can come right back here and say, Hondo told you that Jonathan Smith and company develop players, meaning they get better over those 4 years. And we would have a prime example. This would be the biggest win of his career to date.
I think it would be the biggest win as a coach. And I'm going to be very frank. I don't expect Michigan State to go win this game. There's a lot of things against them. I certainly think they could. But even without a win, I think we're seeing enough to say, look, at Hondo told you what Jonathan Smith can do, and he's done it. John, I want to get back to this game tonight because I want to recap it. Because there's a stat that a lot of people are going to celebrate that concerns me. And I want to know if it concerns you. Aiden Chiles was the leading rusher, 8 rushes for 76 yards. I don't want to keep him from being who he is, but that's dangerous. You got to be able to get some more from your tailbacks. ETT got 37, Tullis got 31. Again, Mekhi Frazier got 22. So they ran for a total of 174. But am I making too much out of Aiden?
No. First of all, this is the top athlete on the field. We understand that. But no, Michigan State doesn't have an NFL running back on the field right now. They've got a potential NFL quarterback, potential NFL wide receiver, maybe another guy or two. No, it is a concern. I'm curious whether they will break it down and say there was somebody missing assignments, or there may be an issue with somebody dinged up, or if it's really just a personnel issue. We don't really know what we've got in that running back stable. I am concerned that they haven't had more success. At the same time, hopefully, kind of like the D'Antonio era, all the ships would kind of rise up for the best games. All of a sudden, these guys would be playing right against the top recruits in the country. That's what we need to see next week. An ineffective running game for Michigan State next week spells a game that gets out of hand and they're way too far to catch up from, most likely. I am a little concerned. I'm not concerned that there hasn't been the emergence of a top tailback yet. Not worried about that. I'm concerned that they're not getting more done and they're not out rushing their quarterback. That's not the stat that's going to get them an opportunity to win 10 games this year. Not going to happen. So let's see what happens next week. We're going to have a real good idea. And then when they come out of the bye, what I hope would happen is they would have a lead dog and a guy to support him. I think that's a reasonable goal for after the bye week.
I agree with you. John, I want to talk about Wayne Matthews, 10 tackles to lead the team. I loved the way this Michigan State team tackled. A lot of guys were involved. You saw a lot of bodies. I can tell you in the NFL, coaches like it when they look, and there's tons of guys that made tackles because it means the whole team was involved. That happened today with Michigan State. But it would be remiss to not talk about Wayne Matthews.
Yeah, Wayne Matthews did stand out on a day when there's 46 tackles and 12 assists. Wayne Matthews is a guy who is benefiting from so many things, namely the reps. I think he benefited from the reps. Again, there is no practice like the game. Nothing. Wayne Matthews is a DMV Spartan, meaning he's from the District, Virginia, or Maryland area, which some of us are very appreciative of. And he did stand out. What a stage for these guys, especially some of the transfer guys and some of the younger guys. Big stage. You want to make something happen. National TV at Southern Cal. You're going to make an imprint. Joe Rossi looks like he's got this thing relatively tight. I'm sure he doesn't have it as tight as he wants. But what I see is the difference between the starter and the 2 or the 3. You see that gap closing a bit, which is what you want to see in a developmental program, and you want to see the elimination of obvious mistakes and giving up big plays. What I'm looking for out of the defense next week is, can they keep from giving up big plays if they can, and they can keep Michigan State in the game, the Spartans are going to have a chance to steal one where there's no doubt they're not going to be favored at all. I'm not trying to blow it up to make it seem like this is a game that they should win. No, what I am telling you is they should not have a problem getting up for this game. This is a big deal, and this is a potential springboard for Jonathan Smith's time at Michigan State. If he finds a way to get this one, and folks, if you don't know, it's kind of right in his old backyard, look out.
One last thing I want to talk about on this game, John, and then we'll turn fully to USC. But Nick Marsh, great game for him, 94 yards. Velling was great with 70. And Omar Kelly with 49. I thought the tight end play was exceptional. And listen, with this Jonathan Smith offense, yes, you got to have the guy that can bust it down the field, but tight ends are intricate and important. That was great to see today.
It was. Look, we didn't get the real Jack Velling last year. We just didn't. And he missed time in camp. So again, game reps, you saw him taking a step. I really like Manousis a lot, the second tight end. I think that what we're talking about is the development that they've got in the tight end room is going to permit them to do some different things, whether they're sending out a different lineup with more than one tight end at a time, or they're able, because they've got a quarterback with some experience now, to assess what he sees at the line and say, this is most likely the avenue that I can have the best chance to complete a pass with. That is super critical on the health, of course, of Marsh. I think they've already been helped by Kelly's breakout and his obvious speed ability. So when you're looking for more guys to develop, I like Manousis a lot, and I think your point about the importance of the tight end at Michigan State is valid under Jonathan Smith, and I'm sure they're already seeing some recruiting momentum at that position because they're saying, look who we have already out there and who we are featuring, and this position matters in this offense. And listen, again, the game has changed, folks. People know, kids know, the tight end position that was recruited 20 years ago, it's not the same. Tight end is a difference-making position at the NFL level, means it can be a difference-making position at the college level, means that tight ends, they should be looking with a little more interest in where they're going to play than, 20 or 30 or 40 years ago when Mark Bavaro was like, hey, where should I go?
John, I was talking to a Big Ten head coach this week for a story I'm doing in SI, and he knows that I'm a Spartan, and I said, what do you think of the Spartans? He said, I'm going to tell you something nobody's talking about. I said, really? What's that? He said, they are making a major push with high school kids while everybody else is going to the portal. And he goes, and Jonathan's got the resources. He goes, and I think it could come back and hurt some of us because we're going portal, portal, portal. All of us are so much. And he's going to high school where there's guys he's getting that maybe Michigan State would not have got previous. I thought that was very enlightening. I'd love your thoughts on that.
This is an intentional strategy that may be going to show some fruit. There are some guys out there who've got a different sport, but a Rick Pitino idea where he says, you take portal guys in high school, you're going to get killed. There are some colleges and even some in the Big Ten that look like they're going to be forced or be looking to build almost 50-50. And if you're doing that, it's almost a whole new operation each year. And I think that's less predictable about how good you're going to be from one year to the next. So you may have an 8-win, a 9-win, and all of a sudden you're down to 4. If you can find a way to go against the grain, but with some precision, and if you have an edge on talent identification, and Jonathan Smith is a humble guy, but I think he knows he's a little better than a lot of folks at identifying talent, all of a sudden you can get somewhere. So if you stack up a guy that wants to go be the 5th or 6th receiver at Georgia, for example, and they may go to the portal and get some other former 5 stars, or you have a chance to come to Michigan State, develop a bit, and play, that may be a different angle, a different way to look at it. These things are very, very different than they were, folks. It wasn't long ago that Keon Coleman came to Michigan State and told them, I'm going to be here for a couple of years and then go play somewhere else. That's not a knock on Keon. That's just the way it is now. So might we see some kids do that at Michigan State? Yes. Might we also see some that have that intention when they commit to Michigan State, but then they realize, you know what? This grass is green enough, and then they stay. So this is an interesting to watch. I'm curious when you think we will see if that really pays off. My guess is that we might see a trickle of it in the next class, but really 27, 28, 29 is when you might see, hey, wait a minute, this guy's pulling more guys from high school while these guys are chasing people that are a little bit unpredictable from the portal.
If they get to 8 wins, 9 wins, I think which I would be shocked at 9. If they can get to 7 or 8, I think you see it this year. But if they can stack 2 years of bowl games and continue to get better, you'll definitely see it in 27. John, last thing I want to talk to you about is let's talk about the enormity of the USC game. And I want to talk realistic. And here's what I mean by this. If they go win this, it propels them into the top 25, and it clearly sends a message to the country. They're not a playoff contender or a Big Ten title contender, but they're back in the mix as a respectable program who's now dangerous. If they lose it, to me, there's no shame in it. They're still an improved football team that's headed towards a bowl game. So to me, there's nothing to lose. If I am Jonathan Smith, I'm literally telling my team, to use a term out of Las Vegas, you're playing with house money. You have nothing to lose. USC has everything to lose. John, where am I wrong in that analysis?
You're dead right. USC is at home. They've got a kickoff time advantage, if you will. They've got everything to lose. Michigan State does not. If they can somehow find a way to win this, the compounding confidence is going to send it off the charts, and all of a sudden 10 wins is possible. Now, there is an interesting thing also about this that Smith doesn't need to tell his team, and they may not even realize. Southern Cal has an unbelievable schedule that follows this Michigan State game. The only reason I mention that is there's a chance that they might look ahead a little bit. The reason I say that is they are at Illinois, Michigan, at Notre Dame, at Nebraska after the Michigan State game. They've got their work cut out for them. It would be lovely to see for Michigan State if Southern Cal just kind of rolls out there and says, hey, this is late. We just got to roll out there, and Michigan State's just going to lay down for us. That's what you want Southern Cal to come into this game with. Michigan State has nothing to lose. They should be playing smart but loose. They do not, any kind of tentative play that we might have seen at a couple spots today where guys were not really sure what am I supposed to do? Maybe I go this way or go that way. What you're looking for is to get them out there loose, get them with a little confidence, and say, hey, let's go play. Let's go see how we measure up. This is an opportunity for Michigan State, in part because they have a bye week, meaning half the teams are going to lose, the following week, to jump back on the national stage, not to get in that mix necessarily for a playoff, but to get back to what was a very high standard at Michigan State of so many double-digit win seasons. This one, folks, got a lot more interesting. Michigan State has taken care of business to this point in the year. Huge opportunity at Southern Cal, but regardless of what happens there, still a really good uptrend looking for the rest of the fall. But first things first, we can't wait for that thing to kick off.
I agree with you, John. All right, everybody, keep it tuned to SpartanNation.com, where Jacob Konsanika is a terrific beat writer covering every aspect of the team, as well as I'm contributing as a college football senior writer on SI, and always John Schopp joins us. We'll see you at SpartanNation.com.